Greetings, good afternoon, maybe good evening, depending on where you're at, or whenever you watch this, right? So, Bear, are you gonna come up here or no? No, don't hit me. Come on, you coming up here or no? Come on, there has to be a cat on the top. She's just being difficult. She expects a certain kind of wet food. I didn't get the kind of wet food that she prefers, so she's mad at me about it. And she's pretty convinced that I have the good stuff around here somewhere, but I don't. And she keeps trying to bury the food that I got them. Because if she doesn't like it, none of the cats in the house are allowed to eat it. That's a rule. If she doesn't like it, neither does anybody else. All right. So now that I'm done making the internet mad at me in the hockey world, let's discuss Star Wars and the Mandalorian. This is part of the reason why I love this channel, because I can just talk about Star Wars, Mandalorian, pretty chill, not a whole lot of debate, or is there? So this week was The Believer, and I really, really liked this episode. Now, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. And then come back and watch the review. If you've watched it, well, you don't have any reason to take off, do you? Well, I guess there are reasons, but let's just stay on it. Oh, and this is my don't go cramping myself. This is a Krampus shirt that Yvonne just gave me. So I'm wearing it in the video because my wife made it. So, happy wife, happy life, all that stuff. Quoting Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Now, this week's episode I thought was really strong from start to finish. I'm glad Bill Burr's character's back in it. Of course, he was last seen outsmarted by Mr. Djarin, the Mandalorian himself. And this week, it really, really expanded his character and gave it a lot of depth. There were a couple of parts of this episode that I thought were kind of, they were weird. Like the whole pirates thing was weird. I thought, okay, so they want to steal it and blow it up, and then the stormtroopers show up, and then you're kind of happy to see stormtroopers, which is the weirdest thing. And then Bill Burr, knowing how the audience is going to react, his line is in the script of "Never thought you'd see the day you were." I'm paraphrasing. You never thought you'd see the day that you're happy that stormtroopers showed up, which is absolutely 100% true. Now, of course, what I found really interesting with this episode too was how it kind of shows the gray area in the Star Wars universe. There's not a lot of gray area. This is not like, the opening scroll of episode 3 where there's heroes on both sides and you're thinking, no, there's not. There's Imperials and there's Rebels. There's no heroes on, it was the Republic at the time, but you know what I mean. There's not heroes on both sides. If there's a hero on the Imperial side, it's because they're misguided. So there's misguided heroes on one side. But of course, then Rogue One showed us that not all of the members of the rebellion were necessarily so you could say misguided, roguish heroes on both sides. I guess that wouldn't fit in the scroll as well. It wouldn't read as well. But this episode really kind of showed that stormtroopers are they're not portrayed as being particularly accurate with their shooting, and they're not being portrayed as particularly the smartest group. It's an ongoing characterization in the Star Wars universe that's kind of been frustrating, but I understand why it's that way. Because if they were really smart and they were all great marksmen, the rebellion never would have got anywhere, and they wouldn't lose a battle. So it makes some sense. I thought that obviously the biggest moment of this episode is that Mando is willing to remove his helmet. And in that moment, I thought, okay, so are they going to show us Pedro Pascal's face? Now, we know what he looks like from other shows and movies he's been in. But are they going to do this in this episode? And they did. And what I thought was great about it was that he didn't really hesitate. There wasn't really hesitation from him on whether or not to remove the mask. Of course, Bill Burr called him out on it when he switched over to the Stormtrooper outfit, saying, so are you just not allowed to remove a mask at all? Does it have to be, is it just your armor? When does it matter? And it was a good point. And of course, the other Mandalorians we've seen throughout this series have been willing to remove their mask. And so it shows a sign that maybe Mando is starting to break away from that line of thinking. Or, and this is far more likely, that he so desperately wants to have Grogu back in his possession, as his child, as it were, that he will do anything. And if it means taking off his mask, then done. No problem. Yeah, I'll do that. I will take off my mask so I can get Grogu back. You had the tense moments between Bill Burr's character and the officer for the Imperials who he knew. And I thought that scene, it sort of played out like a Quentin Tarantino scene where I was like, okay, not sure, we're not quite sure where this is going to go, but it's one of those where they're sitting and they're having a chat, and one guy's completely aware the other guy is a prick. And you're like, all right, so when is the guy who's the prick going to realize that he's being handled? When is this? When is this going to turn? When is the violence going to break out? So I thought it was a really nice and, like I said, very Tarantino feeling moment in that show. Um, and again, Burr played it absolutely perfectly. And then we've also seen the Marshal, who is Gina Carano. She's definitely evolved as well. The one thing is, and I know there's some people who want her fired, and there's a whole online everybody needs to fire Gina Carano. I think honestly, she's not a main character. She's a supporting character. So could they write her out? Yeah. Am I overly upset? No. It's one of those things that I don't get it. Because again, it's a supporting character, and I think a lot of the time she says things on social media just to get the ire of people. I don't know that she necessarily believes any of it. She seems like the kind of person who just doesn't care, and so that's where I'm at with that. Um, Boba Fett. The interesting thing with Boba Fett is that he was kind of left off to the side in this episode, and he was just basically the pilot. He's just basically waiting. He's the getaway driver, right? And he's so cool and calm, and he definitely feels different than he did in the original trilogy. This feels like a brand new character. The armor might be the same. It is cleaned up. Looks damn nice too. But the character definitely feels different, and it feels like it's a complex character. I don't think when George Lucas designed Boba Fett and brought him in Empire Strikes Back, I don't think he cared. I think it was just sort of this is a character. I don't know, he's a guy in a mask. I never got the feeling there was a big backstory idea or there was a lot of thought put into it. Then when he did the prequels, he decided, well, we'll have Boba Fett in this. It'd be kind of cool if he was a kid, and sure. The stormtroopers are based on Jango Fett. Sure, that's fine. I don't think there was a really complicated backstory, and now in this series they've made it clear that there's a lot more to Boba. And of course now we have a lot of Star Wars shows coming out. I think Disney Plus has realized, hey, this is a very popular show. It's going to get a lot of people to sign up. Why don't we expand the TV universe of Disney, which is something that was talked about since before the prequels. There were rumors about different series. I remember when the Ewok movies came out, and there was hey, could we have an Ewok series out of it? It never happened. But there's always been a desire from the fan base to see more Star Wars. This episode at the end, where Mando sends the message to Moff Gideon saying, yeah, you better give the kid back or else kind of thing. Fantastic. Him having the gall to warn Moff Gideon is fantastic. And it'll be interesting to see where this turns out. Because again, we're going to see during these series, and apparently the Ahsoka series is going to happen at the same time. There's a couple other series that are going to happen at the same point in the timeline too. I'm kind of anxious about the Bad Batch. That's the one that I heard, and I thought, you know what, that could end up being the best of the bunch. But, which is ironic since it's called the Bad Batch. But this series going into the season finale, it feels like it really is becoming this story that almost belongs up there with the original trilogy, up there with Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And I know people are going to say, you mean A New Hope. No, originally it was just called Star Wars. A New Hope was added later. It became A New Hope later. I still think of it as Star Wars, Empire, and Return. And it's fine. I'm old. It's fine. It's not a big deal. I'll be interested to see what happens from here. I thought another good thing they did this week, no Grogu at all. He doesn't appear at all in the episode. Not zero. And that has to be the first time that's happened where he's not in the episode at all. And it's because this is about Mando's journey. I would think the next episode will be about the rescue of, or the attempted rescue of Grogu, and how that's going to turn out. Because since we didn't see him, we don't know what Moff Gideon's been doing and what kind of training Grogu might have had since that last episode, and that he's going to get as well between now and the next episode. So I'm anxious about it. I think it's going to be great. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. I'll say this much. If Star Wars is going to have all these series, I'm perfectly happy to review all of them. And Yeah, that sounds like a good time to me. New Star Wars series coming out all the time. They're all tied into one another, and it is that expanded universe we've always waited for, that we've always wanted. I remember after Return of the Jedi ended that I was really wanting to see some of these other stories brought to life, and now here we are. They're not the exact same stories we got in the late 80s, early 90s, but I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just glad we're getting it. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.